I'm going to start. Welcome, everybody, to the Synapse Philosophy Group. I'm your host, Dr. Haig John, and we are reading D.D. Palmer's 1914 book, The Chiropractor. We're on page 102, and the chapter is Palpation and Nerve Tracing. I'm excited. I realize we have been breaking this book down for like a year and a half. I mean, it's we have delved into it deeply, and it was great to be on this journey with this book and the others with everybody, and I appreciate it. Appreciate you. Um, Tonight my voice is raspy, and we're gonna have the best beard on the cameras here do some reading, Dr. Alan Lichter, and we're blessed to hear your voice. Thanks very much for reading.
Thank you for the opportunity. So we're on page 102 of D.D. Palmer's The Chiropractor. That chapter is called Palpation and Nerve Tracing. The chiropractor determines the position of the bones, more especially those of the vertebral column, the condition of the pathway of subdural nerves by palpation. This is known as physical diagnosis. This examination is performed by a discriminating touch of the fingers, which direction of knowledge and the skill acquired by continued application become very sensitive. The truth of the science, the correctness of the art, and the reasonableness of its philosophy are demonstrated thereby. That's some good stuff. You're muted, Haig. You're muted.
I'm getting there. Yeah,
there's some good stuff in there. He talks about they're using your hands, but by repetition you become very sensitive, and the truth of the science, correctness of the art, and the reasonableness of the philosophy are demonstrated by by that knowledge, by your experience.
By your experience coming through you from the work we're doing from above, down, inside out. Yeah. I love it.
The more you do, the more you know.
Well, he's a wordsmith, and in reality, he just gave us, like, I mean, it's poetic how he's writing, really. I mean, it's you can feel it. He's well written, and he's well read. I give so much props to D.D. Palmer. I do. Let's keep going. What do you guys think?
So based on that last concept about becoming more sensitive, nerve tracing is an art. The systematic application of knowledge regarding the condition of nerves in health and disease, observation, study, experience, and skill acquired by constant practice has resulted in determining certain principles and facts which enable us to determine the luxated joints, which by their displacement cause more or less nerve tension, variation of functions, conditions known as disease. The art of palpation, to determine the condition of subcutaneous organs, has been used for centuries by medical practitioners. The art of nerve tracing is of recent date. Your teacher was the first to practice it. The chiropractor could trace sensitive, swollen, longitudinally contracted nerves for the purpose of locating their impingement and tension. By palpation, he determines the one or more spinous processes which project posterior of the normal outline. The projection of the displaced spinous process is in the direction of the bend. In the cervical, it is anterior in the dorsal posterior and ventral in the lumbar. In the practice of 25 years, I have only known one case of reverse kyphosis and lordosis, which I relieved by adjusting the 12th dorsal. There are three vertebrae which may be considered as stationary: the axis, the first dorsal, and the sacrum. There is no better way to locate the cause of disease or demonstrate to a prospective patient how bones and nerves are related to each other and why such relationship accounts for health and disease than by palpation and nerve tracing.
You know, this is the first time we're really getting a lot of technique where he's inventing language in the description of finding the subluxation and adjusting. I know how that feels really in a way, but he's creating an entire new process and describing it. That's not an easy thing to do in brand new language, right?
Yeah.
I looked up from the sentence, nerve tracing is an art.
Yeah.
And I looked up the definition of art. Listen to it. The expression or application of human creative skill and imagination.
Yeah. That's what he's really saying is it's the science and the philosophy applied to the art. That's where I'm getting this, this communication from Didi is this is putting the third leg together, the application of everything I've told you to this point. And this is how we apply it. And I think it's very powerful. It's a powerful chapter, really.
Ready to go?
Yeah.
By palpation and nerve tracing, the chiropractor can often determine the organs and the innervating subdermal nerves affected. Nerves in the normal condition are not sensitive to pressure. Those in the teeth are not affected by cold or hot, sweet or sour ingests. By unique movement of the nerve, which is unduly stretched because of being impinged against or stretched by a displaced bone of the neuroskeleton, or is returned to its normal tension, normal vibration, normal temperature, and normal functioning. Chiropractors demonstrate the correctness of Dr. Thunglison's statement in his dictionary. Irritation is indicated, quote, irritation is indicated by tenderness or pressure over the spinous process of one or more vertebrae or parts of the sides of the spine, unquote. Chiropractors are demonstrating upon living subjects, no cadavers, no vivisection.
Power on.
I'm sorry.
We got your power on. I like it.
Where that came from, it was good.
Poignant.
Opportunity knocks. Chiropractors are demonstrating upon living subjects, no cadavers, no vivisection, that there are nerve fibers which have not been noticed by anatomists. Nerve tracing explains the unexplainable explanation of, quote, vicarious commutation, unquote, or substitution. A number of theories have been advanced to explain the process of heredity, the transmission of acquired characteristics, the perpetuation of ancestral distinguishing traits and qualities, including the inheritance of disease from ancestors. One of which is that germinal continuity, minute particles are given off from all cells of the body and collected in the reproductive, generative, living, active basis of all animal organizations. They represent all of the body characteristics, both heredity and acquired. Medical men believe that the cause of disease originates outside the body or are generated within the body. Those outside are traumatic, heat, cold, poisons, and living organisms such as bacteria and animal parasites. Those, quote, originated within the body are less definitely known, unquote. The self-poisoning is designated auto-intoxication. Pneumonia, diphtheria, typhoid fever, measles, mumps, whooping cough, and rheumatism are among the diseases acquired by inheritance transmitted from parent to offspring, physical or mental qualities conveyed from ancestors to their progeny. This theory includes the doubling of multiplication of the vital units of the future individual, which accounts for the variation of form. physical, and mental qualities, including the transference of disease. Speculation based on such assumed hypothesis necessarily falls to the ground. No sharp distinction exists between the germ cells and somatic, pertaining to the wall of the body or the body as a whole cells. The above named diseases are classed as those of heredity, whose duration is considered self-limited, are readily relieved by chiropractic adjustments. Conscious intelligence is the observation of impressions received through the sensory organs of sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. To these may be added perception, apprehension, recognition, understanding, discernment, and appreciation of our physical surroundings, and these are increased by the occult intuition and spiritual instinct, the ability of knowing and the power of acting without the assistance of reason. Intuitive sense is modified by imagination and memory, by the discriminating qualities of intensification, by the condition of tone and the variation of the standard of health. Modified intuitive sense varies in the actions of instinctive consciousness. Intuitive knowing and instinctive action are determined by organic habits and unconscious sensation without thought or volition. Instinct.
Hold on right there. Let's pause right there just a second. What's he talking about?
Intuition.
Intuition, acting innately, right? And so he's teaching us. I mean, I feel most of what BJ was writing about was getting it out of our educated mind and acting innately. And, this is really where, and, BJ at that early time, he was just growing that part of the philosophy and understanding it. And, this is Didi basically talking about the same thing, I feel. What do you guys think?
Agree.
I think that, yeah, I agree. He's also talking about, I think that goes back to where he talks about the learning process, because the more you work with people, and the more, the people that are here that I see on this call, and hopefully the people that are listening to tapes and videos at other times, the more you touch people, the more instinctive you become about what you need to do to help them.
Yeah.
Get a sense, even before you, I don't know about the rest of you, but I'll be upfront. I knew sometimes before, I used leg checks to validate other things that I felt when I was touching people. It was like I would to talk to the body. In Rump's terms, you're talking to innate, you're asking questions, but you feel things. You can, Larry Markson called it the curious passing of hands. You didn't even touch them. You ran it over their back, and you feel things. You know things that over time, not when I was a student, but after years of practice, you know that you know that you know.
You learn to listen. You learn to listen with your hands. You can taste, almost smell. I mean, you can feel everything through your hands. It's time, repetition, effort. I had one chiropractor, he said, rub your pisiform on everything, feel the different textures, and you'll start growing, the nerve endings become more sensitive. And I think my pisiforms are more sensitive than my fingertips, and they're sensitive. And, he's talking about training your tool, training yourself, becoming more, alive, just like Alan's talking about. This is we're all a work in progress. We always refining, doing better, and creating a better machine as a chiropractor to deliver amazing adjustments. That's what I see.
As an intuitive chiropractor, in my gut, I exposed myself to hanging out with Burl Pettibon for weeks, Ralph Gregory learning Nuka, hanging out with Grostic. And the problem I had a problem in there. They were saying that if I take a spinograph, a picture of the neck in California on a patient, and that same patient goes to another chiropractor in Florida, they should be adjusting to the same line of correction because they were trying to make it a standardized. You have this, the materialistic view, as opposed to the intuitive view. And I can see where those who are very much into the angles and the precision have a problem with the the intuitive ones, and we have that today. And I think what has to happen is people just have to honor where they're at. You will have what I call anal retentive chiropractic line of drivers, and you've got the intuitive ones. And I sometimes I vacillate, and I'll take from both. I always liked having a listing, but I always knew that the speed and tension and it was made by when my hands left the spine.
So Steve's right on, because currently in the upper cervical world and all the advanced technology of imaging, we are able to get all these specific angles, degrees, measurements. And classically, you want to be a technician and correct those. And with that, we lose that personality, that innate, that healer touch. And to jump back to page 102, like Dee Dee was saying, we're not just moving a bone from point A to point B. Where is it? Bone of the neuroskeleton. It's returned to its normal tension, normal vibration, normal temperature, and normal functioning. And that's the power of the adjustment. Are we actually testing and measuring those effects in each of those? And it's very profound, Steve, that you jumped back to Grostic and Gregerson and all them, because even in today's upper cervical world, in chiropractic in general, they want to be technicians and move it from point A to point B.
Yeah, let me tell you. So when I came back from Monroe, Michigan, spent a week with Ralph Gregory, I got rid of my X-ray holder because it was, and I bought an L frame. Spent about $5,000. I had Fisher X-ray come, and I got the and then I would take X-rays to make sure my machine was in alignment. Then it turns out that my two gurus in chiropractic, Pettibon and Grostic, they had a weekend thing in Orlando. So I went to Grostic's office, and guess who had my old rejected shaky X-ray machine that was also teaching upper cervical specific and how to bisect the skull and make the angle. Grostic had, the old man, John Grostic had my shaky X-ray. And it reminds me of how Dr. Sid used to say, well, sometimes my pisiform just sucks the atlas towards me.
In the defense of that, you think about, in developing a technique, a language, and an approach is what, we've done with innate adjusting over the past decade and a half. And when you try and put something that's in your hands and your mind into a book and describe it, and then be able to repeat that and teach it, you have to have some level of order to something that comes naturally to a person. And the talent of the men that you just mentioned, it makes my hair stand up. What little I have of just the amazing, minds that have brought these things to us all. And when you see a glimpse of that humanity, the reality is he didn't need to have that, but to show the rest of the world, you better go to this level of specificity, because it's easy for me, it's not easy for everybody else. I mean, it's not Gonstead putting those things, just writing out a manual, which I've done. It is a very, very a mind-blowing thing when it comes out of you in a way.
I also hung out with DeJeanette when he was alive.
Yeah. And
I had one of his gold books. I still do. And in one of the gold books, he talks about how the reactive leg never lies. And so, he's talking about the category 1, 2, and 3, which are definite materialistic findings. And there in the book, you're talking to the feet. and it's like a pendulum. So
Well,
we
you're
have
talking to Innate. You're talking to Innate.
and
Innate
that's
to
why
Innate.
I
That's
love
what it was.
chiropractic. That's why I love chiropractic, and
I think,
patients love it, and they get well.
I
And
think that
don't ask me how it works, because I don't know.
I think that part of the issue has become today that the desire for the science and to be able to blame it, if you will, to depend on the technology to show you what to do, and have scientific validation to say this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, has overcome the core philosophy that we understand as working with the innate intelligence in our bodies and their bodies and letting them communicate with each other. And there's a greater than that's what he's talking about here, that intuitive sense
Yeah.
of to find what is there. Yeah, you get a general impression from an x-ray, but that was taken when? A month ago? And is it still the same? Aren't they supposed to be different after you adjust them? And if I adjust somebody now and they go to Haig down the street and he finds something else, that just means that their bodies were talking differently. There may be something else needs to be done. That's you have to get your ego out of the way and be
Right.
in tune with a bigger source and allow that communication in my mind.
I
And,
have to say though, in defense of the specific upper cervical angle guys and women, you walk into that office and they have so much faith and confidence in what they're doing that it stimulates not only referrals but healing, because they are on the money in terms of precision, and there's so much attention put on that correction, and it's beautiful too. The materialists can deliver that faith, that unnameable thing. It's going on there also with their anal retentiveness.
Let's not pick on other techniques and people, let's, because it's amazing. I started in Nuka, actually in Toggle and Nuka. And, I just got this the other day. This was from BJ Palmer. A few fearful physicians force funny partial flu frivolities for frenzied folks. And it's a whole thing of pamphlets from the Fountainhead. It's all like the newsletters from it's a brand new printing. I got it from the Fred Barge page. What page is that? If you guys know what that, I can't remember what it is, quite honestly.
Tech store or something.
What is it?
The tour store.
Tour store.
The tourstore.com. And
Wow,
they have
cool.
such cool stuff. I mean, it's a lot of fun. And these are all, there was this one from 1918. Yeah, here it is. And they're wearing masks. It's a flu time, so funny it's happening again. Isn't that very odd? Right after, what is this? World War I, 1918, right after it.
Big flu epidemic.
Yep. So
can we go on?
let's finish it up.
I'm going to reread the last sentence and then go forward.
Yeah.
Intuitive knowing and instinctive action are determined by organic habits and unconscious sensation without thought or volition. Instinct is immediate in action without the process of reason. Intuition consists of knowing without reasoning from cause to effect, direct, immediate perception without reasoning. Instinct is a natural, inherited impulse, unassisted by a reasoning conception of that which occasions or affects a result. Intuition is the ability of knowing without reason, the immediate perception of truth without conscious investigation or assigning rational causes for their existence. Instinct is an inward, unconscious principle in man and the lower animals, an involuntary prompting which causes mental and physical action without individual experience or a distinct apprehension of the end to be accomplished. An innate tendency to perform a special action in a distinctive way when the necessity occurs. Intuitive belief, intuitive judgment, and intuitive knowledge are qualities due to direct perception, the result of inward consciousness. Intuition may be mystical, perceptional, intellectual, or moral. We may have mystical vision, spiritual perception, and direct intellectual apprehension.
Hold on
Do
one
we want
second.
to talk about some of that? Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is again, now he is, you know,
He's
helping
nailing it.
us connect and act innately, man. He is.
That is
What
what
do
it
you
is.
guys feel? Let's hear it from the peanut gallery here.
He's laying it out. He's saying that he even uses the term innate in there.
Yeah.
After he goes through all the intuition, then he says innate in the summation of it.
It's, you know, it's bigger than instinct. It's the intuition's important. We're talking bigger. We're talking more, and to trust. That's where he's going, is trusting us. I mean, this is what innate adjusting is based on. That trust that you know that you know that you know. And you know that because I mean, we work hard at it. We train the body. We tune in our instruments to the best of our ability, right? And we continue to work on it. And there is no end result. Being under the soil, then we're really fine-tuned. So yeah, I mean, I love it. I love
Are
it.
the
I
schools,
wrote I got my crayon out.
are
Go
the
ahead.
schools teaching this?
No,
Oh,
I don't
heck
think so.
no.
Because when I went to school at Columbia, Dr. Napolitano, if I repeated these words, I would be kicked out. We used to keep our mouths shut and go down to DE because this kind of talk was anti-science.
yeah, but it's from D.D. Palmer, and it's not about science.
Who got the message from a dead guy?
Which is spirit, intuition, and inspiration. You know,
Yeah.
that's we read that much earlier.
He also says, you know, to tie it back together to what he said at the beginning about practice and doing over and over. Intuitive belief, intuitive judgment, and intuitive knowledge are qualities due to direct perception, the result of inward consciousness. So it's you perceive things as you touch, but the instinct of what needs to be done is what you have to listen to and follow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Very
You know,
nice.
this is real beautiful because when things
That's a
are
big line right there. That's a big line.
when things are in integrity and you are in tune, and as they say, this is the zone, when you're in the zone. And when you're doing the work eventually with time, and we all know this, the seasoned ones, it uses us. Is chiropractic in you, or is chiropractic you? It uses us. When you are in tune and in the zone with those people on that vibe, with the universe, it works, it flows, just like he's saying here. It's absolutely beautiful. And it goes back to the second paragraph of this chapter here, where he talks about the science, the application of the art, and the humbleness of the philosophy. And again, it's the science, art, and philosophy, the scientists in him that led to the art, that led to the philosophy.
Yep.
I
That's
love that both. I've had to integrate both the science and the art, the intuitive, the educated, and I'm not negating the educated. My educated serves the innate in my practice, in my living. And this is beautiful. You know, feet on the ground and head in the sky together. That's what makes the circuitry. But they don't teach you this.
Well, that's why we're doing it right now. You want to continue, Alan?
Ready to go. Hexiology, a word I've never seen other than here,
Me too.
Hexiology is the science of habits. A habit is a tendency to perform the same spontaneous action under similar circumstances. Habit applies to individuals, instinct to ancestors. Habits acquired through our ancestors are known as instinct. Organic habits may be acquired by the physical organism during the life of an individual or of a race. The system of bodily processes of the physiological organism has been acquired through past generations. Constant practice, frequent repetition, habitual custom confirms habit until it becomes a function. Mental or organic habits are acquired through the education of the nervous system. I think that again is talking about repetition, and then it becomes part of it. The mental and organic habits are acquired through the education of the nerve system. As you feel people over and over and
Muscle
over,
memory. Yeah.
you are learning, and your nerve system becomes sensitive to that, and then feeds the intuition. In biology, our environments are the aggregate of all the external conditions and influences affecting the life and development of an organism. In a measure, we regulate our surroundings, giving but little thought of individual and organic habits. Pernicious habits may become fastened upon the human will, weaken vitality, and bore tunnels Pernicious habits become fastened upon the human will, weaken vitality, and bore tunnels through the reservoirs of force and character. Self-respect, and restraint are passions are as essential to longevity as prophylaxis and the science and art of retaining the health. I think that's supposed to be. Besides that, are dangerous, must be shunned. And so that word is, I'm not sure what that word's supposed to be, DESIDES. It says decides that are dangerous, must be shunned. The mind must be kept wholesome. Every time we think, each time we act, a record is made.
Stop there. Stop there. Read that sentence again.
Every time we think, each time we act, a record is made.
There you go.
Each repetition of a thought, each performance of an act deepens the groove of habit, mental or physical. It renders the next similar impulse or movement more automatic until, in time, the nervous system becomes like a phonograph disc. Without apparent consciousness, we find ourselves guilty of repetition. Habits become our master, and we its slave.
Every time we think, each time we act, a record is made. I love that.
Well, and he's talking about, really about what we expect of you as a professional, getting, keeping your head straight, being present in the moment, and you're acting, you are held to a higher level, a responsibility, right? He's putting us, what do you call that? Your mission in and setting us to the true north, right?
And his son wrote a book about this, or a chapter on it, called Slipping and Checking. This is slipping and checking.
Slipping and checking. That's it.
Well, he's talking about that any kind of habits, good or bad, are created by repetition.
Correct.
Pure air, clean water, unadulterated food, and thoughts free from error and vulgarism will form cleanly habits of mind and body. Chiropractors should comprehend the principle of reflex action. Reflex is the bounding back, the return of an impulse. The reflex action is executed without our will, one performed and directed by that intelligence which controls the sympathetic nervous system, the nerves of organic life, an involuntary movement of an organ or part of the body resulting from the impression carried by a sensory or afferent to the subordinate center and then sent back by an efferent nerve to some place at the near or source of irritation is known as reflex action. All acts performed without brain function are known as reflex actions. The involuntary brushing of a fly from the face or the attempt to move away from an annoyance when tickled by a feather are examples. In reflex acts, a person does not think before he acts before he thinks. The nervous impulse comes from the outside and returned and is acted upon without going to the cerebrum. As it were, the message is short-circuited back to the surface by motor nerves without having reached the thinking centers. Automatic acts are accomplished without thinking. By training, the acts have become automatic. Habits are really acquired reflex actions. Habit trains certain nerve centers. Reflex action is the bounding back of an impulse, the conveyance, an impression from the central nervous system and its transmission back to the periphery through the motor nerve. The account of function depends upon the renitency, the impulsive force obtained by the bounding back, the reflex action. A reflex pathway is the route taken by an impulse. It includes the afferent nerve, the nerve center, and the efferent nerve. The reflex center is any ganglionic center where a sensory impression is changed to a motor impulse. Sneezing and the involuntary sniffing of an odor, whether pleasant or unpleasant, are reflex actions. Coughing and choking may be produced by tickling the pharynx, reflex actions. The performance of functions by the controlling intelligence without using the encephalon. The accumulated urine and feces call for matriculation and defecation, reflex action. An enlarged, contracted, sensitive nerve may in reality be only a nerve fiber, which may leave a nerve, paren, a bundle of nerves, close paren, and enter another. Thus, we trace many fibers from their exit at the spinal frame and to their destination, or vice versa. Nerve filaments which have not been recognized by anatomists. Be careful to make a distinction between palpation, perceived by the sense of touch, and palpitation, rapid pulsation of the heart. Fini.
D.D. Palmer. That's where we're going to stop and pick up on 106, Bones and Nerves. And I love that chapter we just read. I mean, I got a lot out of that tonight. That was some good stuff in D.D. that we don't hear about very often. I don't think people get very deep into this book to quote enough. So we got to come up with some and start posting them. I like them. Anyway, you guys have
I don't know. There's some things that are quotable here, I think, but so much of it is you have to think about what he's saying.
You need context with it. Yeah,
part of the value of what we're doing is by discussing it, we're drawing out. He's saying some things, but there's more there, and you have to think about it to get the bigger meaning of what he's talking about here, which may have happened in the classroom, may have happened sitting over a coffee outside of class or over a cold brew. But
you guys are a bunch of troublemakers the way you're talking here. You all need to be like separate.
You don't like it, you can go away.
I prefer the term rabble rouser. Guys, ladies, gentlemen, it's been awesome tonight. I had a great night. I got a lot out of that. Any last tidbits? Well, tomorrow, next Tuesday, we'll have the same time. End of the month, I'm going to see Scott. We're going to do a Tuesday night from Colorado together. I can't wait. I hope I have enough clothes to get to Colorado from Florida. And so much dumping snow in that area. So hopefully we'll get through from Florida. We'll see how we fare.
Scott, are you practicing in Colorado?
Yes, indeed.
Where?
Woodland Park is about 20 minutes west of Colorado Springs.
Oh, okay. Hey, you ever go to Sunrise Ramps where they did GPC system hanging out there? George Shears.
No, but we live in the same neighborhood, as the nature place where many people went to, what do you call that?
If you go to Sunrise Ranch and sit in the library, Dr. Sid used to just go there. He didn't do any, he didn't
I've
participate.
never heard of it.
Sunrise Ranch is in Loveland, Colorado. You go there and
Oh, okay, yeah.
sit in the
That's so
library
far away.
there.
Nature
But-
Place
In
was
the library there, you'll get
Chris and
zapped.
Nature
Pat
place
had
is
this
where
stuff,
Total
right?
Solution was.
Yeah, Chris and Pat I used to go
Correct.
up there for that all the
You
time.
know what
yeah.
GPC stands for? That's what we need to say.
Patient chiropractor.
I thought it was God practicing chiropractic. God patient chiropractic. I got God from Sigafus. He said that because we used to do GPC during Christmas to New Year, and people would pay for other people's plans, and like there was donating money to Oaklehaven. Anyway, God bless you, everybody.
You
Good
would
night.
like going there. You would like going there just for a couple hours.
I'm gonna
You'll
go
have to
check
check it
while
out.
we're there. All right, good night,
There's a-
everybody.